December 26th, 2004, 6:58 in the morning. The sun had barely cracked the horizon over the Andaman Sea. Fishermen along the coast of Banda Aceh, Indonesia, were already knee-deep in the shallows, pulling in nets, laughing, planning their day. Children ran across the wet sand in Khao Lak, Thailand, chasing the tide. Hotels along the beach were beginning to fill with the sounds of breakfast, of clinking glasses, of tourists on holiday. It was the morning after Christmas. Families were sleeping in. Couples were watching the sunrise. The world felt calm. It wasn't. At exactly 7:58 a.m. local time, 1 hour after those fishermen waded into the water, the ocean floor cracked open, not metaphorically, literally. 800 miles off the coast of Sumatra, at a depth of nearly 19 miles beneath the seafloor, the Indo-Australian tectonic plate had been grinding against the Eurasian plate for decades, millions of years of pressure, of geological tension, of the Earth's crust being forced downward. All of it had been building, silently, invisibly. And on this particular Sunday morning, after years of stress accumulating at a rate scientists call locked and loading, the fault slipped. Not by inches, not by feet, by nearly 50 feet in some sections. The rupture didn't happen all at once. It tore northward along the Sunda megathrust, the longest seismological scar on the planet, moving at nearly 2 miles per second. The break stretched for over 900 miles. It took nearly 10 minutes for the fault to fully rupture, 10 minutes of the Earth violently tearing itself apart beneath the ocean. The energy released was staggering. The U.S. Geological Survey would later calculate the magnitude at 9.1. Some scientists placed it at 9.3. Either way, it was the third largest earthquake ever recorded in human history. The shockwave was so powerful that it made the entire planet vibrate like a struck bell by nearly half an inch. Seismograph needles around the world went haywire. Scientists in Tokyo, in California, in Germany, in Australia, they all saw it simultaneously. Their screens lit up with readings they had never seen before in their careers. One seismologist in Hawaii later said he stared at the data and thought his machine was broken. It wasn't. Now here's the thing that makes this story different from a regular earthquake. The Sunda megathrust sits beneath the ocean, and when 50 feet of ocean floor suddenly lurches upward, it doesn't just create a tremor you feel on land. It displaces water. Trillions of gallons of seawater, pushed violently upward in milliseconds, had nowhere to go but outward. The tsunami had been born. There's a cruel physics to a tsunami that most people don't understand. In the deep ocean, a tsunami doesn't look dangerous. The waves can be traveling at 500 miles per hour, the speed of a commercial jet. But in water that's 4 miles deep, the wave height is only a foot or two. You could be sailing over one and not even notice it. That's what makes tsunamis so deceptive, so deadly. Because as the wave approaches shallow water, everything changes. The front of the wave slows down as it drags along the ocean floor, but the back of the wave is still moving fast. The wave compresses. Energy that was spread across miles of deep ocean now has nowhere to go but up, up, and up. 15 minutes after the earthquake, the first wave was already 100 miles from its origin. 30 minutes after the earthquake, it was approaching the coast of Banda Aceh, the nearest major city, sitting directly on the northwestern tip of Sumatra. The people there had no warning, no siren, no phone alert, no text message, no official system of any kind. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii had detected the earthquake, yes, but there was no warning network for the Indian Ocean, not one, no buoys, no alert system, no protocol. Because in recent recorded history, the Indian Ocean had never produced a catastrophic tsunami. It had never needed a warning system. It needed one now. Meanwhile, something strange was happening along the beaches. The water was pulling back, impossibly far back. In some places, the sea retreated by nearly half a mile, exposing fish flopping on the bare, wet sand, exposed coral reefs, exposed seafloor that hadn't seen open air in centuries. Tourists walked out onto it, confused and curious. Some took photographs. Children picked up fish. A British schoolgirl named Tilly Smith, just 10 years old, recognized what she was seeing because she'd learned about it 2 weeks earlier in a geography class. She screamed at her parents. She screamed at the beach. She saved dozens of lives. Most people on most beaches didn't run. They watched. In Banda Aceh, there was no warning at all. The water didn't pull back, it just came. At 7:59 a.m., just 1 minute after the earthquake struck, the first wave hit the coast of Aceh. BAT. Before anyone could even understand what was happening, it came as a wall. Survivors describe hearing it first, a sound like 1,000 freight trains, a roar that seemed to come from inside the earth itself, and then the ground shook, not from the earthquake, which had already ended, but from the weight of water crashing over the land. The first wave was 10 feet high. It swept through the streets like a river, overturning cars, shattering windows, pulling people off their feet. Survivors climbed trees, climbed mosques, climbed anything with height, and then it pulled back. For a few brutal seconds the water receded, dragging everything and everyone with it. People grabbed lampposts, grabbing walls. Some managed to hold on. Then the second wave arrived. 30 feet high, it erased entire neighborhoods in minutes. Streets that had existed for generations, gone. Hospitals, markets, schools, mosques, gone. And it still wasn't over, because that was just Aceh, and the wave was still moving. Traveling west at 500 miles per hour, the tsunami was now racing across the open Indian Ocean in every direction. East, toward Thailand, west toward Sri Lanka and India, further west, toward the Maldives. Further still, toward Somalia and the Horn of Africa, over 4,000 miles away. One earthquake had launched multiple tsunamis simultaneously in every direction, an event scientists call a radial tsunami. The energy was being distributed across the entire ocean basin like ripples from a stone thrown into a pond, but these were not ripples. Thailand was next. 2 hours after the earthquake, the coast of Khao Lak, a popular tourist destination on Thailand's western coast, was still quiet. Breakfast was being served. People were walking on the beach. When the water pulled back there, tourists actually walked out onto the exposed seafloor to look at stranded fish and sea creatures. No one believed what was coming, because this is the terrifying paradox of a tsunami. The warning sign looks like an invitation. Then the wave arrived, and here's what no one expected, not even scientists watching in real time. The coastline of Thailand amplified the wave. The shape of the bay, the angle of the seafloor, the geography of the land, it acted like a funnel. What was a massive wave offshore became a catastrophic wall of water onshore. 20 feet, 30 feet, hotel buildings 3 stories tall, flooded to their rooftops, bungalows on the beach, gone without a trace, not damaged, gone, scraped from the earth as if they had never existed. The tourist town of Khao Lak lost thousands in a single hour.
Many of them were Europeans on Christmas holiday. Swedes, Germans, Britons, Finns, families, couples, children. And then came the news that stunned scientists most. Sri Lanka, an island nearly 1,000 miles from the epicenter, was being hit with waves that were killing thousands. India's eastern coast, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the Maldives. And this was the moment that changed everything about how scientists understood the event, reports began coming in from Somalia. 4,500 miles from the earthquake. The waves had crossed the entire Indian Ocean in 7 hours. And they were still killing people. This was no longer a regional disaster. This was oceanic. In the hours that followed, the world struggled to process what was happening. Communication lines were down across Aceh. The entire province, a region of 4 million people, had essentially been cut off from the outside world. Roads were gone. Bridges were destroyed. The airport in Banda Aceh was flooded. Helicopter pilots trying to fly in for reconnaissance reported seeing something that broke them emotionally. A city, an entire city, that had become a lake. Not flooded, not damaged. A lake. A vast, flat, debris-choked lake where houses and roads and markets and mosques had been 30 minutes earlier. Emergency services were overwhelmed before they could even begin. Many of the rescuers themselves were victims. Police stations were gone. Hospitals, full of patients, were destroyed. In some towns, the entire local government was wiped out in a single hour. Survivors clung to debris. Mothers held children above the water on rooftops. People floated on doors, on furniture, on the wreckage of their own homes, for hours. some for days. The smell. Survivors describe a smell no human should ever have to know. In Thailand, the resort of Khao Lak had been filled with thousands of tourists. In the aftermath, the bodies of foreign nationals would be found as far as 2 kilometers inland. Identification became an international effort. DNA databases were created from scratch. Hundreds of people were never identified at all. In Sri Lanka, entire coastal communities, fishing villages that had existed for centuries, simply ceased to exist. The city of Gali was devastated. Trains were swept off their tracks. One train, the Queen of the Sea, carrying nearly 2,000 passengers, was hit by the wave. Nearly 1,700 people perished on that train alone, and still the wave moved.
And still the wave moved, across the Maldives, across India, across the Andaman Islands, and finally to Somalia, a country already struggling to survive, now hit by a disaster no one saw coming. The catastrophe had gone global, and no system, not one, had been able to stop it, or even warn against it. But beyond the numbers, there were stories. A woman clung to a palm tree for hours as the water raged beneath her. A man drifted at sea for 5 days, alone, carried miles from land and somehow survived. In Thailand, strangers became rescuers, organizing the injured, keeping people alive with nothing but instinct and courage. And in one of the most powerful moments of all, an indigenous tribe, the Moken, survived entirely. No technology, no warning systems, only knowledge passed down through generations. They saw the ocean pull back, and they ran. Every single one of them lived. When the final numbers came, the scale was almost impossible to comprehend. Over 227,000 people dead, 14 countries affected, millions left without homes, food, or water. One earthquake, that changed the entire planet. In the years that followed, warning systems were built, sensors, buoys, alerts, systems designed to make sure this never happened again. But even today, nothing is guaranteed, because warnings only work if people listen. Today, Banda Aceh has been rebuilt. The beaches of Thailand are full again. Tourists walk the same sand. The ocean looks the same, but it isn't. Because just beyond those calm waves is the memory of what happened that morning, a reminder that the sea is never truly still, and that on December 26, 2004, the ocean showed the world what it's capable of.